Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. This is going to be a design breakdown for this cream top I have on here. This top I wore, I believe it was last year or the year before, and the original design is by Opoly, and it is a deep V neckline on the front and on the back with a puff sleeve and a wide cuff. This is not a sewing or pattern tutorial. However, in this video I'm going to be breaking down the design in such a way that if you follow through, you should be able to create the sewing patterns to make the top for yourself. If you do enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up, comment your thoughts and suggestions down below. Don't forget to subscribe and join the KDVAS fam. And with that being said, let's get into the video. To create this design, you would be working from a basic bodice front and back, as well as a basic sleeve pattern. Starting off from the front, I have drawn a miniature version of what a basic front pattern should be like. And on this, the changes I would be making for the front top design is dropping the neckline really deep. I think the neckline was way deeper than the bust line of a basic bodice pattern, and then it has this curved seam that sits underneath the bust, so ensure that that seam goes to your under bust and it curves back onto the arm curve. With that in place, the seam there has a little bit of gathering or ruffles or pleats, whatever you want to add to yours, and for that you would need to slash and spread this pattern by, I would say, 1 inch, not too much, so it doesn't bulk out too much. So you need to trace off this top pattern piece and then slash and spread it, add your seam allowance for that part of the front of the top. Now for the bottom area, you would essentially just trace around the side, and it's more on a cropped side, so it sits around the waist, and then you'll be ignoring the waist dart and have 2 panels on the bottom of the top. So one panel that sits on the mid front that will be cut on a fold, and then the panel on the side that would be stitched onto that bottom panel. So you should end up with 3 pattern pieces for the front of the top. Now that middle center front, I would say you can leave a little bit of space so it makes that pointy edge that the top design has. Once you have your plan done, this is the point where you can either cut out the pattern and cut with your seam allowance onto the fabric, or you could trace off your patterns and add your seam allowance to your patterns before you then use that to cut your fabric. I hope that makes sense. So this is just like a rough shape of what the pattern should look like when you're done. This I was just drawing by freehand, so excuse this pattern that looks like a shoe. This is meant to be the top pattern that was slashed and spread, and then you would have 2 shorter patterns that are sort of like wide waistbands that would be stitched together to create the bottom pieces for the front. Those bottom pieces, you need to cut a pair each if you don't want to line the top, else you can use the same patterns to cut your lining, or if you don't want lining at all, you can just overlock or use bias tape to finish off all of your seams. For the top piece that was slashed and spread, that you would need to cut 2 pieces for, one for the left and one for the right. Now moving on to the back patterns, I have my shrunken down version of my back basic bodice, and the back actually has a very deep neckline. It goes below the bust line as well, but you can make it as deep as you are comfortable with, as you can see in the picture here on the bottom of the screen. The waistline or the top length has to be the same as the front, so that you would want to transfer from your front plan. And then the back has a seam that goes across like this. I would say keep above your dart, so the top half of the top you don't have to do any major changes there. However, for the bottom bit, you will just trace around the waist dart like we did for the front. So you have 3 pieces, 1 on the top and then 2 on the bottom area, that when stitched together would create the back of the top. So this is what the shape of your pattern should look like. You have your deep V neckline on your center back, your shoulder, your arm curve, and then you should ideally go into the side seam, not make a corner like I've done here, just so when you're making yours it should have a shape that is correct. And then you have the 2 smaller pieces that would go around the under bust or waist area, so that when they're joined together you have the pieces that would be connected to the rest of the top to make the back. I would say you need to cut 2 pieces each for this pattern, so you have everything, ready to join to the front. Now for the sleeve, which I think is one of the most interesting parts of this top. It's giving me Victorian era, it's giving me volume, it's giving me all the things I love. So if you have your basic sleeve pattern already, you would really need to slash and spread it, especially along the sleeve head, to add the volume and the drama that this top has. Now for the bottom of the sleeve, it's like a really wide and fitted cuff that has buttons on the side. So once you slash and spread that top pattern piece, the sleeve head should look really wide. So once that is gathered back into your arm curve, you have the puff happening for the sleeve design. I would recommend when you make a top like this, you can work with a woven fabric, but let it have a little bit of stretch, especially because the cuff is quite fitted. So you want a fabric that has some stretch to give you a little bit of movement and a little bit of room. But all done, you should have 3 patterns for your front, 3 patterns for your back, and then 2 patterns for your sleeve. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This was a concept that has just been in my spirit for a while, and I was like, let me try it, share it, and see what you think. If you enjoyed this video, do give it a thumbs up. Comment down below which design I should break down next. I think this would be a great way to showcase how to create different garments without having to make the whole piece. I'm trying to be more mindful of how much material and how much paper I'm using in the new year, so leave a comment down below for our next project. And on to my next one. Have a good morning, afternoon, and evening wherever you are. Bye.